Hi, everybody. My name is Richard.lesperance, and I go by the name of My Man Richard. This is the podcast, Welcome to a Better Lifestyle. And today we're going to talk about AI and finance. So it's going to be a pretty interesting topic. I have today my guest is Charles Meaden, and he's a very smart smart person, and he's done a few things in his professional life. So we're gonna talk to him about that. So Charles, tell us a little bit about your story, and we'll get started.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Richard. Been looking forward to it. It's been in the calendar for a while now, so glad to be on. Yeah, a little bit about me. I guess I can give a little bit of my background about kind of how I got to where I got to working in finance and specifically AI and automation in finance. And yeah, it's a relatively long story, but I'll keep it short. Essentially, I emigrated to New Zealand over a decade ago with my wife, just after the day after we got married. And since then, been on a number of business ventures. I actually started in the jewelry manufacturing business. I was a goldsmith by training. And I built that up and used the cash flow I was generating from my manufacturing business to retrain into technology and learn to program. And then from there, built a gaming startup, which was like air miles for video gaming. And we had just short of 500,000 users. And that was an interesting experience. And we sold that and went and moved to a company in Australia. Before eventually starting to build Gembot, which is the current primary project I'm working on, which is an AI investing assistant and modern wealth platform, where we essentially help people get to the next level of investing, basically. And during that process, I've also been running a long-short equity strategy, which we incorporate our research from running a systematic investment strategy into the actual design of our platform. So yeah, that's kind of a long story short.
Okay. What's the difference between, is there any difference between machine learning and generative AI, or, or
Yes,
or it's the same?
yes, yeah, and I think it's an interesting benefit to, in a sense, to kind of talk. We're positioning ourselves as an AI investing assistant, but there's a lot more to our platform than that. And of course, machine learning is different from generative AI. I would kind of more describe generative AI as an interface for users to interact with AI and get a response. And machine learning is obviously vast when you think about kind of how quant strategies use machine learning to run automated strategies. And then you might have someone utilizing an AI assistant to help them with their finances and help them build wealth over time by providing basically access to financial literacy and financial information and financial context as well. So, you'd be able to ask the assistant, or you can ask the assistant, what has happened in the past and why, and give context around kind of historical events or just good practices when it comes to building wealth.
Okay, and how is your platform operate in general?
Yeah, so our platform is essentially an investment platform. We allow users to use our brokerage service to have very low fees for trading US equities, ETFs, and cryptocurrencies. We also have scheduling and automation, so you can automate your investing. And we have very good discovery features for discovering different assets like ETFs or stocks and in-depth information on that. And then lastly, we've got our AI assistant, which you can ask questions to, and you can interact with our investment platform with through asking questions in natural language. So that the platform is, I guess, a modernized Bloomberg terminal in many ways. It's very easy to use, it's beautiful, and it's very fast, and you don't need a degree to operate it.
Okay. And how is the part of the AI work in the platform?
Yeah, so obviously we use AI across our business in different ways, and we obviously use algorithms to take care and help us with different things. But in terms of the generative AI and how that's working in our platform is we are using GPT 3.5 as the LLM, and then we are enhancing it with our interface and our expansive data lake. So we have a very large data lake of all the financial data that we've been collecting over the last 100 years. Obviously, we've not been collecting it for 100 years, but we have over 100 years of data. So what we're essentially doing is taking an existing model and then enhancing it and specializing it for building your wealth and interacting with your finances and finance in general.
Okay. And so how is the AI and the finance industry? What is the current state right now between the two?
Are you talking about AI broadly in finance or
Yeah,
specifically to us?
yeah, broadly, because
Yeah.
I think I know some people in the industry that are using it right now. So how is it like in general?
Yeah, I mean, people have been using, you've had quant strategies running for many, many years in the finance space, and often it's been exclusive to the largest firms and the firms with the most resources and the most PhDs, right? The best quant strategy or quant team in the world, and no one's close to them is Renaissance, built originally by Jim Simons, but then taken over by a couple of people that originally worked at IBM and then teamed up with him, and they have a team of over 300 PhDs. So they've been using it for the last close to 50 years now. They've been using quant and basically AI and machine learning and statistics for a very long time. We obviously we have some of that capability in our platform and in our team. But we're also working out, okay, well, how do you utilize generative AI to deliver actionable insights and information to users, which is easier to digest? When you think of AI in finance, obviously you could look anywhere from compliance. So, you could use machine learning and algorithms to obviously monitor your compliance and, suspicious transactions. That's one use case of AI in finance. You could obviously use machine learning to build a arbitrage strategy, which could be high frequency, and that's lots and lots of trades, taking small profits every time, or the majority of the time, of course, because it's they just have to have a positive win rate. And then you're now looking at generative AI and how does that fit into the space and how do users use it to enhance their investing and their ability to build wealth. And I see an interesting opportunity in terms of building people's knowledge through generative AI as a delivery mechanism for financial literacy, but also helping people use natural language to compose strategies. So, writing a couple sentences or a couple paragraphs about how you want to invest, and then the generative AI in our system basically giving feedback and the ability to click and basically build your strategy from natural language.
How accurate is the information on the AI?
Generative AI in general or us specifically?
Yeah, if someone is using any type
I think
any type of platform, how is the data
It's a really important question, and it's something that we think about a lot. Like how much do these systems hallucinate? Because we're talking about probabilistic outcomes here, right? So, truth, you can't really get a binary outcome with generative AI in the way it works, in a sense, because it is using probability in a big way, right? And trying to rationalize from the information it's received and the information that it's learned from. So there are some really important technical challenges that come with this in terms of providing accurate and reliable information and data. And then how do you use the model or how do you improve the model so it hallucinates less and is able to garner really accurate information, not trying to kind of look into its training and memory and trying to remember information, because it will most likely not be accurate. So we spend a lot of time focusing on how do we get the assistant to interact with basically our own software to make sure that the responses are very accurate. Because we have very accurate pricing data and financial information for the last 100 years. So our assistant should be able to interact with that data and make sure that anything that it says when it talks about quantitative measures can be more accurate. And that's actually just something that we are working on now. Should you rely on generative AI and the responses as kind of truth? I would say it's very similar to a search engine. And I don't think, when you Google something and you get a response of links, a number of links responding to your search, you shouldn't necessarily take those links as being true immediately by default. And I think that's the same with generative AI. You always have to do due diligence and make sure that, you can gain conviction and cross-reference to make sure something is accurate. But it is very helpful for getting one or two levels deep in terms of a query. But obviously, especially in its early stages, I wouldn't, rely on it exclusively. And that's a big technical problem that we are working on to make sure that you can rely on it exclusively.
Do you think you could beat the market with that?
I think that many users will use our platform and beat the market, and I think many users will use our platform and underperform the market, right? And then many users will use our platform to effectively invest and perform in line with the market. So, you've got to bear in mind that with generative AI specifically, or, machines and automation in general, is, you and I can use the platform and have vastly different outcomes. And we can fundamentally be asking similar questions, but how we ask the question is going to give us vastly different responses. If you were to say, hey, should I buy Apple on our platform is not going to give you very good information because you're asking for financial advice, right? Whereas if I type, what are all the pros and cons to Apple right now, and what are the major risks involved in investing with Apple at this current state, that's going to give me a much better that's going to give me a much better response than the first question. And I think it's really important for us as a product to make it easy for people to ask good questions, but also users should be made aware that obviously how you ask the question is very important with these systems.
What are the pros and cons you would say about the whole thing about the AI and the finance?
I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, I can conceive of in the next 3 years, with the trajectory of our technology and the trajectory of the technology of the industry, there's no reason why, a user couldn't have multiple agents that are essentially running as like a hedge fund, in in a single application, like getting access to hedge fund level agents to some degree in the next 3 years. I don't think that's unreasonable to think. Now, is that going to garner alpha and beat the market? I don't think that would necessarily be guaranteed, but I definitely think that individuals will be able to increase their capabilities and increase their resources through these agents and these systems. But ultimately, I don't think it's just about swinging for the fences and trying to kind of get rich quickly through an algorithm. I think it's what we're trying to really push towards is building wealth over time and improving your financial well-being. It's not just about speculating and trying to build the strategy that's going to get me the biggest return the quickest. That's not really our objective. Now, I do think that there are going to be users and use cases where people do have really unusual outcomes. But I'm really focused on like how do we broaden financial literacy and how do we get better outcomes for individuals, especially as they build towards retirement.
Is there a difference in the approach for a retail investor and a day trader, someone who's day trading? When using AI?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. So your objective going into, your investing journey is going to dictate your behavior, right? So the first thing that users do when they come on the platform is they do an onboarding, which kind of defines and helps kind of us understand, but also the user understand what their objectives are and potentially what their activities should be. There is a very different behavior and, order of actions that need to be taken when you're dollar cost averaging every month into a number of ETFs, right? To day trading, market events and market moves. It's completely different. And how you'd use the system is completely different. So yeah, there's a huge difference there. And, some users might go, well, I want 80% to be dollar cost averaging. And then 20%, I'm going to maybe take some risk and look to generate some alpha and beat the market with this 20%. But I'm not going in with the full 100% of my capital, risking it at, to generate alpha. And again, that's something that we are really focused on because a lot of investing is doing the really boring stuff well. And one of those things is portfolio construction. So I hope that answers the question.
No, it's okay. So you said the portfolio construction. So what's obviously like portfolio managers and all that, maybe they're going to be affected by that. So what do you have to say about that, like for the future?
Yeah, so one of the thing you mentioned was retail investors versus day traders as well. We don't really use the term retail investors because it's almost become a bit of a derogatory slur. We consider our users independent investors, and independent investors can do well. And if they, utilize well thought out strategies and execute well on dollar cost averaging into established indexes, then they will do very well. And yeah, that's kind of, that we want to help people have better outcomes. And a lot of that is doing, portfolio construction. So how do we make it very easy to visualize the different assets you have, not just across our account, but across all of your accounts, the RIA or, your pension fund, whatever it is, your bank accounts potentially, and of course your brokerage accounts. You might have two brokerage accounts that are, your pension might be completely correlated to your brokerage account. And if that's the case, then, you may have risk that you didn't really understand because you saw, well, I've got my brokerage account and I've got my pension and they're two separate investments, but they might be absolutely 100% correlated. And if they are correlated, you need to know, because over time you want to have less correlation across your different parts of your portfolio, probably.
So, so what are the potential, like, I'm not talking about maybe your platform, but
Yeah.
everything in general with AI and all these tools that people could use. What would you say are the potential scams that can happen that people should be aware of, like when it comes to fraud and security?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be getting bigger and bigger. Obviously, you've got your obvious ones, right? Which is there's going to be a lot more identity theft and fraud through AI now, especially with all the tools that are available to us. So you've got to be careful with your own identity protection at this stage. Because there are going to be lots of people trying to steal other people's identity and take out loans and do different things like that. That's a kind of very broad kind of where scams will start to arise, and they obviously have been around for years. You think of the phone calls that old people get trying to get them to give bank information, right? But it's going to be maybe the other way around now, where if you are able to steal copy someone's identity, you might be able to access their bank with the actual bank on the phone using certain voice tools. So there's one kind of fraud is but the thing is we can then use AI, and institutions can use AI to battle that, and it's going to be a constant fight. In terms of, I think, investment and finance related fraud or scams, any product that says that there's some algorithm that's going to always generate alpha is probably not legit, because whenever you have an AI system or strategy running, it never lasts forever. And the only way to stay ahead of the game is to iterate and keep improving and change your strategies to fit the current market conditions. So no arbitrage lasts forever. No magical AI system is always going to beat the market and always going to generate profits. It's just not going to happen. There is no get rich quick scheme in investing. I believe in getting rich slowly. So anything that is like it always wins. Now, okay, you might have strategies that run and they outperform, over the long term, but they might have a lot of volatility. So, anyone being kind of intellectually honest will say, look, we can't always beat the market, but based on our back testing or based on our strategy so far, we're confident that we can outperform the market. So it's really, really important to really get comfortable with the fact that nothing ever works forever, and nothing is guaranteed, especially in investing. So I would definitely say that.
Have you seen high returns on when people are using the AI to help them?
I mean, yeah, we've seen use cases of people doing really strong trades and discovering assets they may not have discovered through our assistant, through certain queries. Because with our system, if it identifies a company, it will give you information about that company in the conversation. So it allows investors to discover assets they may not have discovered otherwise. And we have users that have generated profits while using our platform. You mentioned tool, right? These AI tools. We see ourselves as a tool. So some people are going to use our tool very well, and some people are going to have maybe not as good results as others. So what we're trying to do is enable access and democratize access to better software and more investment types and more asset types. That's what our mission is. We wouldn't take a credit for someone that massively outperformed the market, in a sense, right? Because ultimately they had to make the trades and they had to put the system that the strategies together. They did that really themselves. I guess we may have helped by our software and our technology, but I would never take credit for someone on our platform having good returns.
You were talking about alpha before. For people who don't know what it means, like certain terms in the stock market, can you explain a little bit what alpha is for the people who don't know?
For sure. And alpha isn't actually just, well, we shouldn't think about alpha as just stock market or, and stuff like that. Alpha is edge, and edge is your the difference between you and the majority of your competitors, right? So your beta is your S&P 500, let's say, and then your alpha is whatever you generate above what the S&P generates, right? So when I'm thinking about alpha, I'm not just thinking about did I make money? It's actually did I lose less money when the S&P went down a lot? That to me is more impressive alpha. So if you get a manager, right, or you're an investor and you slightly underperform the market in the good times, okay, let's say that hypothetically, but when the market draws down, you don't, and you are flat over a long period of time, you're going to generate a lot of alpha against the averages, against the S&P 500, because those drawdowns really matter. They make up a huge number of your returns. If you look at ARK Invest's ETF, the ARKK, they have a high average annual return, but their cumulative return from 2019 is flat. They've not returned anything. But they have, in a sense, you go, oh, wow, on average, they return 24% or 30% or whatever it is. But then you look and you go, well, actually, cumulatively they're flat over the last 5 years, and over the last 7 years they've actually underperformed the S&P. Right, so alpha is what can you get above doing nothing, and by doing nothing I mean buy the S&P.
Okay. Last words in regards to what we talked about right now.
Any last words from myself?
Yeah, that you want to add concerning AI and the finance industry and the stock market, like in general, anything that you want to say?
I think in terms of, I guess, words of encouragement, I would say, hey, as a participant and an individual in this world now, with the emergence of AI and the emergence of accessible tools to access AI, I would say embrace them and learn with the progression of the industry. Don't get left behind by not wanting to adopt it. Try it. Understand that it's not going to be perfect, and use it. See this as an opportunity to basically enhance your already existing skills, whatever industry you're in. If you're a lawyer, can you use large language models to improve your ability and your output as a lawyer? And if you're an investor, can you use it to save you time or improve your ability to execute on your investment plan? So that's definitely something I would say in parting thoughts.
And besides working on your system on Gembot, anything else that you're working on in the future or present at the moment?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of what we're working on, we run a long short equity strategy that we have for 5 years now. I believe our cumulative return is double what the S&P has returned over that period. And then, we are building Gembot.ai, and we're always looking for early adopters. We have a Pathfinder program of users that get perks, extra access to the platform, and early access to new features. And then, other than that, like I do a bit of jiu-jitsu. So I think, keeping hold of, exercise and making sure to exercise regularly has been really helpful for me personally. And I would highly recommend everyone obviously look after their body and their mind, and that will help improve your career and your life in general, right? So look after the relationships, your body and your mind, and the rest of it will take care of itself.
Where can people learn more about you on social media or the internet?
Yeah, so I'm Charlie Meaden, obviously easily Googleable, but I'm at Cyborg Charlie on Twitter. I often tweet, and I also have a Medium page. So I've written a bunch of memos talking about markets, and I think I've done some great work there that I'm quite proud of. So check me out on Medium and check me out on Twitter at Cyborg Charlie.
Okay, I'll have the information. Uh, Thanks, Charles, for being here. So it was nice meeting you. So
Totally. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
no problem. Thanks to Sam too for
Yes.
connecting us, Sam Kamani.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you to Sam too. So,
Totally.
on that note, wherever you're listening to the podcast or you're watching, make sure to follow and subscribe. And if you're on Apple, leave a review. And on Spotify, you could leave a star review. So, on that note, thank you once again for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Welcome to A Better Lifestyle. My name is Richard.lesperance, and I was with Charles Meaden. So we'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Bye.